Hey y'all, so I hope you guys had such a great Memorial Day weekend. On today's video, I just want to go over a couple things. I want to show you guys the change that was made in the front on Sunday, or maybe it was Monday. I don't know, one of the two. I had posted on the community tab on YouTube about a change that was made. And I had mentioned that I had already mentioned in a previous video one of the two changes that was up in front. And you guys pretty much nailed it. Almost all of you guessed what was changed. So I want to show you guys that. I want to go over a couple of the thoughts that I've had on the front remake. And I don't know how soon that's going to happen, and I'm still going to continue to think, and I'm sure my mind will change about 50 times between now and the time that we actually start making some progress on the front. But I wanted to share with you guys kind of the thoughts, because Tommy and I were talking about some of them this weekend, and it's going to depend on when we get into it, kind of how we can work around the roots of all three trees that are in the front yard. And so I'll share my thoughts on that. I want to show you guys the prettiest miniature roses that I got yesterday. I went to Walmart for face wash and I came out with 4 perfectly lavender miniature roses that are absolutely beautiful. And then I will also share with you guys the boxwood update behind or underneath the window box in the back. And I do need to get some yarrow planted that I've been meaning to get planted forever, and we'll also try to get the purple lavender roses planted as well. So let's just go up to the front and take a look at what we've got up there. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, most of you guys had guessed it already, but we limbed up these 3 hollies right here. So a lot of people probably are questioning the privacy aspect of removing that, and that is what we wanted to do away with. So we really like our neighbors. I think this view down the street of our neighbor's landscape is so pretty. We get this really nice breeze that comes through here in the morning, and we sit out here a lot on this porch and we have our coffee. So we would always find ourselves kind of like right up here so that we could catch this breeze that was coming on either side of that magnolia. So I decided to go ahead and limb these up. I'd been thinking about it for a while and just hadn't got around to it. But I think they look really good, and I love the fact that you can now see through our yard into the next yards. There's no such thing as getting a lot of privacy in this neighborhood. The houses are really pretty close together, and so privacy for us really isn't that big of a deal because we really like our neighbors. They're super nice people, and in conjunction with that, the view down the street is just so pretty. Why would you not want to see it? So that was our thought on that. And then there used to be a relatively big holly, which is the other change that I was referring to in that post on the community tab. That holly used to be here. And, you know, we just decided to get rid of it because it blocked the view of the house. And I love the architecture of the house. I love the stone. I love the brick. And I've mentioned in previous videos that that's why we live here. We live here because of the style and the architecture of these homes, and they're so beautiful and they have so much character, and I don't like anything that will block that. So we removed that, wanted to save it and transplant it in the back. You guys know how much I love hollies, but it just wasn't going to work because it was way too close to this retaining wall that was right here, and we risked damaging some water lines and the retaining wall trying to dig that holly out to transplant it. It was just really, really close to that wall. And I don't know that it was actually planted right there next to the wall. It was more than likely just a volunteer that had come up. But regardless, that is removed. And so those are actually the 2 changes that I was referring to in that community post. Okay, now let me show you some of the changes that Tommy and I had discussed this weekend on the front landscape. Okay, so what I'm thinking as of now is a staggered boxwood hedge that starts fairly low here and goes all the way up, creates a defined border between the driveway and the landscape in addition to the brick that's already there. I want to continue that up until, well, let's see, roughly here. This is an opening. This is the walkway that the mailmen use in the neighborhood. And that's just something that I should also mention. In the last video on our neighbors, landscape, someone asked why the mailmen would walk through our yards. And as a reminder, we are a historic neighborhood. This right here is our mailbox. So most, if not all, mailboxes are built into the actual houses. So the mailboxes aren't down by the street, and they're not just mailboxes that people have hung up on their houses. They are built into the home. And so the mailmen have to come directly to the house, and then they just follow these paths and they walk through people's yards. And almost everybody has pathways for them for that reason. So you can see this one there, and it kind of trails back. We plan on redoing this too when we do the front yard, making these pathways a little bit more accommodating and a little bit wider. This one here, you can see, we were just talking about this one the other day. This one's really, really narrow, and we want more like this big piece right here, and we want to probably create a defined border with some edging and some stone, and then setting all of the flagstone flush with the ground. And so we'll plan on doing that over here as well. Just a defined border, defined pathway. The mailmen don't have to kind of dodge and weave plants, that kind of thing. But back to what I was referring to earlier. Then this boxwood hedge that will end right here will be an opening for the walkway. It will pick back up here, and then it will kind of stop back here along this curve. There is some poured concrete back there, and we also plan on burying that downspout drain. So same for this area over here. We limb this up, and now this gets a lot more sun, and this gets a lot of western exposure sun. So the things that we plant over here, well, I say a lot of western exposure, not a ton, because our neighbors have very large trees as well, but there is a period of time where this will get quite a bit of sun. So we are also going to do a hedge of boxwoods all the way down, pretty much all the way to the street. And that will give me the defined borders and the defined edges that I really like in a landscape. And then everything else in front of that, we are going to be repurposing all of these boxwoods. The new hedge that goes all the way around the front yard will probably be all new boxwoods, just because I need all the same variety, and it's easier to start out when you're planting that many boxwoods with just a fresh hedge, so that are all the same size. But we will be reusing these. I'm really thinking about, if this tree will allow and the roots will allow, repurposing some of these boxwoods right here in front of the tree, creating a round border kind of around the tree, and back planting those boxwoods with taller things like larkspur and allium and gomphrena and things like that, so that we don't ever really have to mess with back behind the boxwoods. Everything behind the boxwoods will be taller, and nothing that has to be deadheaded or pruned. And then at some point in some of this other parts of the landscape, we will create a boxwood hedge there as well, with the other boxwoods that we will be repurposing from the landscape. So I would love to have, like a little bit higher up, a rounded hedge right here, and then come back up and kind of curve around here, and then just act as a like little swaths of boxwood hedges, if that makes sense. But most everything up here will be repurposed, or at least that's the plan right now, with the exception of the Nandinas. So that is the plan as of now. I'm sure my mind will probably change about 30 times between now and the time, which will probably be this fall, that we can get to this project. That is if the back doesn't override this project. But that's kind of what I'm thinking as of now. And then it'll be planted, all of the boxwoods will be underplanted with all of my favorite things. And you guys could probably also see that I still haven't gotten the annuals that I was looking for. It's just been on my list, and it's been a priority. I actually took into consideration the superbena that you guys had mentioned, and I can't find it anywhere here. The superbena in any of the purples, the amethyst, the There's a one called like Violet something, I think, and I can't find any of them in proven winners, and it's such a bummer because I know Superbena is easy. It doesn't have to be deadheaded. There's not a lull in between blooms, but there is just no proven winner Superbena to be found around here. I have a few gardening friends that garden a little bit north as well, and she posted one the other day and I said, where did you get that? And she goes, I got it at a garden show a couple years ago and I've been overwintering it in the greenhouse. So she said she's not been able to find any around here. So proven winners, please get Superbena in zone 7 in Oklahoma. But yeah, so that's the plan for the front. As of now, I'm really kind of just thinking mostly hardscape options. And as I continue with my design, I will make a landscape design on my computer as well, and I'll share that with you guys. But that's just kind of what I'm thinking right now. You know, reserve the right to change, but I've had a couple people ask me about the front, and that's kind of where we're at on it right now. It's just not the biggest priority, but Tommy and I were talking about it the other day, and we're itching to get started on it, and Tommy's also itching to tear up the turf, but I don't think that that's going to happen as quickly as we re-landscape, but I guess that remains to be seen. So let's go to the back. And this is the yarrow that I need to get planted. I'm not gonna plant it exactly where you see it. We've kind of moved some things around since I placed these, but I'm gonna get these planted. I've just been really hesitant to plant any perennials back here just because I know this fall, this whole back landscape is gonna change. That is certain. It's top on the priority list, and so that will all change. So I just want to plant some very easy perennials to dig up and move should we need to do that when the time comes. Let's take a look over here. So I am so happy with the boxwood, you guys. I planted these on Saturday morning, and they're doing pretty good. I was really nervous. This one is a little bit wilted, but it's been like that. I think it's just in a little bit of transplant shock. Everything looks green. Everything looks pretty healthy. So right now, we're doing pretty good. I'm very happy with the results, and I'm itching to just get these guys established, get them growing together, and then getting them hedged into a square boxwood hedge. But the ferns are really going for it. The ferns have put on so much growth just since Saturday, which to me is crazy. And you can see this gets patches of afternoon sun, but it doesn't stay there long, so we should be okay there. Worst case scenario, I will move the umbrella if things start to get a little bit scorched until they get established. But yeah, the ferns are really going for it. I'm really excited for the Japanese holly ferns to really flush out and add some height, but everything's doing really well. We actually just got a little bit of a rainstorm here about, I don't know, an hour ago, and we got some more rain. You can see the puddle over there in the driveway. Gosh, I'm thankful for the rain, but at the same time, it's so muggy outside. But we'll be thankful come August. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to show you guys before I get to planting the yarrow are these Rosier miniature roses. I went to Walmart for face wash yesterday, and I saw these in this perfect purple lavender color. These are a little bit more pink, but in this beautiful purple lavender color. That's water from the rain. But they had 4 of them, and they were $5. And I was like, oh, gosh, I just have to buy all 4 of them. And so I'm going to get these planted up as well. I'm going to put these in a pot. But I just had to show you guys because I think they're just so pretty. It's like the perfect lavender color. This is the color that I was hoping that some of my roses that I have back in the back were gonna be, and none of them have really been true to color. So I was super excited to find these, especially for $5. And this is the Millie Rock Rose Yarrow. Yarrow does really well for us here. It is super tough. cold hardy to zone 5. Average mature size is 10 to 12 high and 10 to 12 wide. And while I've never grown this particular variety, some other varieties of yarrow that I've grown in the past get much bigger than that. So I'm gonna space these roughly how this tag suggests, and then if they need to be adjusted later to kind of grow together, we can do that. But I'm also gonna be working around some of these plants as well. Okay, and this is what I'm thinking on the placement. So the yarrow gets big enough that I don't want it to be up here near the front of the border. I'm gonna try to miss some of these irises. I'm not super concerned if I do get the irises. These haven't bloomed. So I'm not even sure what color they are, or if they have, I've totally missed it. These are Caesar's Brothers irises, Siberian iris, and they're very, very pretty. I do like those. I don't know what variety these are, and so I'm gonna be kind of careful to try to miss them, but I'm not too concerned about it. So I just want like a big patch of this yarrow tucked back in there. So I'm going to set up my camera and we'll just get started planting. Okay, so this is a good example of fairly root bound. So I'm going to just kind of tease these roots on the sides and on the bottom here. Not too much, but just enough. Okay, so there are the 5 yarrow. They will get fairly big and fill in the space. And when we re-landscape back here, honestly, a lot of this other stuff is probably going to be coming out. So I just can't help myself and start popping some fun, more tough perennials in here until we can get really started on the backyard process. Okay, check that off the list and let's move on to the roses. Let's see if we can find a pot for them. Okay, moved over in the shade because it's just too hot. So I want to show you guys these again. Just again, the perfect purple lavender color. Really like these. So just gonna get them planted in some pots, get some plant tone put in, and that will complete our projects for today. I need to grab some more potting soil really quick. Oops, that's been a little low this whole time. Sorry about that. Okay, so I planted 3 in this container. It's a fairly shallow container and I will have to move it up in size, but I plan on keeping this up around the patio area, so I wanted a pot that was fairly small and manageable. This one was a little bit bigger than the rest of them, so I popped this one in its own spray painted black terracotta pot. All right, you guys, well, that is all that I have for today. Really simple gardening tasks, but gardening tasks nonetheless. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that it was somewhat helpful. You know, there's not a lot to say about yarrow. It's a really tough plant. It does really well. I had noticed that it wasn't doing very well in its container, even though I was watering it. And so it was no surprise to me that when I pulled those out of their nursery containers that they were fairly root bound. So something to look at, something to look for. If you notice that your plants just aren't doing that well in containers or the nursery containers, let that be a sign that something is going on. It's more than likely root bound, or it has a rot issue going on, or has some other issue going on. So just pay attention to your plants, and they will tell you when they need to be planted in the ground, when they need some more root space, and they'll tell you what you need to know. So just be paying attention. I also want to show you guys this. So these are doing really well. We still need a lot of cleanup back here, and I really need to get back there and weed, oh goodness, weed all of the Virginia creeper. But the Sun Patience in compact purple, and the Martha Washington geraniums, and this hosta, I don't know what variety of that hosta that is. It's been there forever. This gets full afternoon sun. And this hosta is doing really well. Eventually I'll have to move it, but for right now it's doing okay. But I think these look pretty on the steps. I would love to have some bigger pots that filled in some of this space, but it'll just take time back here, and eventually we'll get there. But now that I'm sitting over here looking at some of this, I can't really unsee it, so I need to get back there and weed some of that. These are some wires that need to just be totally removed. They're no longer in use. And then we are getting this downspout buried here pretty soon, because we are getting ready to start on some basement work at the end of June. So that all will be buried as well.